Have you ever stood across from a woman and felt like you were looking at a beautiful mystery that no one ever gave you the manual for? You could feel the warmth of her presence, the light in her eyes, the softness of her voice, but underneath it all, there was something you didn't quite understand. Something delicate, something sacred, something that could either invite you closer or push you silently away. Most men think strength is about having the right words, the right muscles, the right paycheck. But what if real power, the kind that makes a woman melt, trust, and open up, comes from understanding her invisible world, her soft spots, her hidden contradictions, her emotional reflexes that even she may not fully grasp? This isn't manipulation. This is awareness, emotional wisdom. It's the language of lovers who don't just touch each other, but feel each other. Because here's the truth, every woman has her secret emotional pressure points, and every man who wants to lead in love must learn where those points lie. In this video, we're not chasing tricks or tactics. We're exploring the emotional DNA of a woman's world. The 9 inner weaknesses that every strong man must know not to exploit, but to connect more deeply, to love more honestly, and to lead with greater strength and presence. So, are you ready to see her more clearly than ever before? You know, most men go their whole lives believing that women are complicated, emotional, unpredictable. They say things like, "You can't ever really understand women," as if it's a badge of surrender. But let me tell you something, confusion is not a sign of wisdom, and emotional distance is not masculine. What women crave, what they're aching for, is not a perfect man. Not a rich man, not even a charming man, but a present man, a man who is willing to see her, not just want her. A man who is willing to understand, not to fix, not to figure out, but to feel where she breaks and blooms. So let's start with this. One of the deepest female vulnerabilities is her craving for emotional safety. And I don't mean safety in the way men often define it, paying the bills, locking the door at night. I mean safety that says, I can cry here, I can fall apart here, I can expose the softest, most chaotic parts of myself, and you won't run, you won't mock, you won't try to fix it too fast because it makes you uncomfortable. You see, so many women were taught that being emotional makes them too much. So they hold it in, they keep their storms private, they smile when they want to scream, and if you, as a man, meet that storm with distance, or worse, defensiveness, she doesn't feel safe. She feels punished for her nature. But when a man learns to breathe into her emotional waves, when he stops seeing them as attacks and starts seeing them as her language of connection, he becomes unforgettable. Because she doesn't want a solution, she wants a sanctuary, and the men who understand this, they become more than lovers. They become home. Now, closely connected to that is another weakness, though I hesitate to call it that. It's more of a hunger, an ache, really, the ache to be chosen, not just desired, chosen. Let me explain. A woman can be beautiful, successful, admired, but none of that means anything if she doesn't feel uniquely wanted by you. Because you could compliment her 100 times, but if she sees you eyeing every other woman at the bar or liking every half-naked selfie on Instagram, she will feel disposable. Like an option, not a priority. And here's the truth most men don't want to hear. Desire means very little to a woman if it isn't accompanied by devotion. She wants to know that your attention is disciplined, that your desire is focused, that when you look at her, it's not just lust, it's loyalty. It's saying, I see everything out there, but I choose you, I want you, I respect you, I'm anchored here. When a woman senses that, her walls drop. She no longer feels the need to compete, to prove, to earn your love. She softens, she glows, she gives more. Not because she's insecure, but because she feels secure in your gaze, and men who can provide that sacred space of chosenness, they unlock parts of a woman that most will never see. Now, the third layer is subtle, but just as powerful. It's a weakness rooted not in insecurity, but in her need to be felt. And I don't mean physically, I mean emotionally. Spiritually, intuitively, you ever wonder why women ask questions like, "What are you thinking?" when you're quiet? It's not because they want to control you. It's because when you go silent, when you disappear into your head, when you shut down emotionally, she feels abandoned even if you're physically right next to her. To feel close, she needs to feel your inner world. She wants to know that you're alive in there, that you're not just a shell of masculine armor, but a man with emotional depth, with texture, with layers. And so many men don't know how to give that. They were never taught how to name their feelings. They think "I'm fine" is intimacy, but it's not. It's a brick wall. When you can say, "I'm feeling pressure today," or "I'm wrestling with something I can't quite name," or even just sit with her in silence and stay present, you give her a gift, the gift of access, the gift of witnessing the real you, not the performance. Because women aren't afraid of your sadness, or your anger, or your confusion. What terrifies them is your numbness, your absence, your refusal to let them feel you. And when you shift that, when you become a man who speaks the language of subtle energy, who lets her in without losing your frame, she will trust you with the parts of herself she's hidden from everyone else. That's not seduction, that's spiritual intimacy, and once she's felt that level of connection with a man, no charm or money or status can replace it. Let's be honest, every woman is a symphony of contradictions. She's both soft and strong, gentle and fierce, confident and uncertain, and when a man tries to categorize her too neatly, he loses her. But when he listens, really listens to what's beneath her words, when he notices the change in her tone, the way her breath shifts when something hurts, the way she looks down when she's scared of her own truth, that's when he becomes irreplaceable. Because understanding a woman's weaknesses is not about exploiting them. It's about honoring them. It's about saying, "I see you, I feel you, and I'm not going anywhere." And when you do that not just once, but consistently, you don't just win her body, you win her soul. Now let's keep going. Sometimes the most fragile part of a woman isn't her heart, it's her self-belief. And here's where we enter one of the quietest, most misunderstood vulnerabilities she carries, the constant pressure to be enough. Not just enough for you, but enough for the world, enough as a daughter, a friend, a professional, a lover. And when that pressure piles up, it doesn't always show up in tears. It shows up in overthinking, in perfectionism, in emotional shutdown, in those moments where she seems to be pushing you away, but deep down she's just afraid of being seen and still not being chosen. There's something deeply sacred about the way a woman questions herself. It's not weakness, it's a kind of inner audit. A yearning to grow, to be loved more fully, to be better not for applause, but for connection. But if a man doesn't understand this, he'll mistake her moments of doubt as drama, as insecurity, as too much. But if you're paying attention, if your heart is steady and your gaze is gentle, you'll know exactly what to do in those moments. You won't try to fix her. You won't tell her she's overreacting. You'll hold her with your presence and say, even in your questions, you are already more than enough. You see, sometimes a woman just needs a mirror, not one that reflects her flaws, but one that reflects her truth. That beneath the pressure, beneath the people, pleasing beneath the fear, there is a woman who wants to exhale, who wants to be loved without needing to earn it every second. And that brings us to something even deeper. One of the most powerful, paradoxical weaknesses of the feminine is her need to surrender, but surrender only happens in the presence of strength. Not force, not dominance, but grounded strength, stillness, integrity. A woman cannot fall into your arms if she doesn't trust that your arms will hold her without shaking. She won't open her mind, her body, or her soul if she senses that your power is unstable. She may test you, not to hurt you, but to find out where your edges are. She's not looking to break you. She's looking for a reason to trust you, and many men get it backwards. They see surrender as control. They want her to give in, to submit, to yield before they've proven they're worth surrendering to. But feminine surrender is not weakness. It is the ultimate act of trust. It is a woman's way of saying, I believe in your leadership. I trust your vision. I feel safe in your strength. But make no mistake, she will never give you that if you can't hold your own center, if you get angry when she's emotional, if you shut down when she needs direction, if your validation is dependent on her approval. She cannot surrender to a man who is not emotionally sovereign. And this doesn't mean you have to be perfect. It means you have to be anchored in your values, anchored in your heart, anchored in your ability to weather the emotional storms that will come in any real relationship. And when you are, she will melt into you, not because you demanded it, but because she chose it freely. Fully, fiercely. Now, let's pause for a moment and acknowledge something most men miss. A woman's relationship to her body is complicated. This is another quiet vulnerability, one that most women carry from childhood into adulthood without ever speaking aloud. She's been looked at, compared, sexualized, shamed, praised, judged, all through the lens of her physical appearance. And even if she looks confident, even if she owns the room, even if other women envy her, there's often still that tiny voice inside her head asking, am I desirable today? Do I still matter if I don't look like that version of myself? You, as a man, can either amplify that voice or quiet it, not through flattery. Not through obsession, but through honoring, the way you look at her when she's not trying, the way you touch her when no one's watching, the way you admire not just her curves but her stillness, her smile, her scent, the way her hips sway when she walks into the kitchen half-leap in the morning. That's where true validation lives, not in compliments, in attention, in reverence. When a woman feels seen without performing, when she feels beautiful in her mess, her moods, her bare skin and bare soul, she stops competing. She starts creating. She begins to express herself freely, sensually, boldly, because you've made her body feel like a temple, not a transaction. And that's where true feminine power starts to bloom, in the presence of a man who doesn't just want her body, but adores her essence. We live in a world that tells women to shrink, to filter, to contour, to stay pretty and stay small. But the moment a man creates the safety for her to expand, to speak louder, to dance wilder, to breathe deeper, she will shine in ways that transform everything around her. And the man who unlocks that will never be forgotten, because what makes a woman loyal isn't logic. It's liberation, it's the memory of how she felt in your presence, not just wanted but free, not just touched but worshipped. Now stay with me, because this journey is just beginning. Somewhere inside every woman is a question she's never asked out loud. Will you still love me when I'm not lovable? And that question is not about being difficult or dramatic, it's about survival. Because deep in the heart of the feminine is the fear of being too much, too emotional, too chaotic, too angry, too vulnerable, and yet still not enough to be fully held in her darkest hour. That fear is a weakness, but it's also a doorway. A woman doesn't need a man who praises her only when she's easy to love. She needs a man who holds her when she can't hold herself, a man who doesn't just celebrate her light, but stays steady when the shadows come. And the truth is, very few men know how to do this, because most men were taught to fix, to solve, to manage. But a woman in her raw state does not want management. She wants witnessing. She wants to know that when she breaks down, when she says something irrational, when she's overwhelmed, ashamed, messy, you will not withdraw. You will not judge. You will not try to silence her discomfort just to soothe your own. The deepest feminine test is this: can you still see me when I no longer recognize myself? And if you can, she will give you access to the most sacred parts of her soul, because now she knows that your love is not performance-based. It's not fragile, it's earned, and when a woman feels safe to fall apart in front of you and still feel adored, she will never look at another man the same way again. But let's shift the lens just slightly. There is another, quieter vulnerability most men never see. The fear of emotional abandonment while in a relationship. You see, a woman can be with you and still feel alone. And this kind of loneliness is not about distance, it's about disconnection. She may have the title, the ring, the home, but if you've stopped meeting her, if you've stopped being with her emotionally, if you've withdrawn your presence and replaced it with distractions, with silence, with avoidance, she starts to disappear slowly from the inside out. It's the feeling of talking and not being heard, of sharing her needs and being met with apathy, of asking for connection and receiving crumbs, and eventually she stops asking, not because she's okay, but because she's tired of begging for energy that should be given freely, tired of translating her emotions into language you'll actually listen to, tired of pretending she's not hurting just so you won't feel guilty. That exhaustion is not loud, it's not explosive. It's quiet, subtle, and deadly, and here's the part that breaks most men. By the time you realize how far she's drifted, she's already gone. The weakness here is not hers, it's the relational wound she's trying to heal, and you, as a man, have the opportunity to be the antidote. Not by becoming her therapist, but by becoming present again, curious again, alive again. You heal emotional abandonment not with grand gestures, but with consistent intimacy. The glance that says, "I still see you," the kiss that lingers, the question that has no agenda but connection. These are the moments that make her feel like a woman again, not just a roommate. Now take a breath. There's one more weakness we must name before we shift into something deeper, and this one is about something primal. Not emotional, not intellectual, but instinctual. A woman, no matter how independent or accomplished, still wants to feel led. Not controlled, not ordered around, but led. It's a longing that lives in her bones, to rest in the presence of a man who has vision, direction, depth, a man who doesn't ask for permission to be himself, a man who moves with purpose, speaks with clarity, and holds his ground with grace. A man who can take her hand and say, "I've got this." And this is where so many modern men lose their footing. They confuse softness with weakness. They collapse under pressure. They seek approval before they seek truth. And the result: she leads, she initiates, she plans, she carries the emotional weight until one day she's no longer turned on by him. Not because he's bad, but because she's tired of being the man in the relationship. This is not about gender roles. This is about energetic balance. If she has to lead in life, in work, in family, she doesn't want to lead in love. She wants to relax, to let go, to be pursued, not just supported, to be taken, not just asked, to be led with intention. And when she meets a man who embodies that, who doesn't shrink from conflict, who doesn't fumble under pressure, who doesn't apologize for being decisive, her feminine begins to unfurl. Her sensuality reawakens, her softness returns, because finally she gets to rest, not because she's weak, but because she's home. And you, if you've listened this far, already know this. The path to a woman's deepest love isn't paved with perfection. It's paved with understanding, and we're not done yet. When a woman feels truly loved, not just possessed, something ancient inside her begins to breathe again. And that's where we meet one of her most haunting emotional weaknesses, her fear of losing herself inside love. Yes, she wants intimacy. Yes, she wants closeness, But inside that closeness, if a woman has ever felt like she had to abandon her voice to keep a relationship, she'll carry the scar of silence. The memory of shrinking, of smiling when she wanted to scream, of pretending to be low maintenance so she wouldn't be left. You see, a woman's desire to merge in love is often in conflict with her desire to stay sovereign. And when she feels like love means sacrificing her individuality, she becomes guarded, defensive, emotionally distant, not because she doesn't care, but because she's terrified of dissolving into someone else's world again. And this is where so many men misinterpret her independence as rejection. But it's not, it's a plea, a hope, a question. Can you love me without absorbing me? Can I be yours and still be mine? The men who know how to answer that without fear, without clinging, without controlling are the ones who hold space for both love and freedom, who understand that intimacy isn't about possession, it's about presence. It's not about owning her. It's about knowing her, and when you love a woman this way, she doesn't pull away. She doesn't go cold. She opens, she softens, because finally she's found a man strong enough to love her without needing to control her. Now breathe with me for a second, because what I'm about to say might stir something in you, something you've felt but maybe never had the words for. Women are strong, but that strength is often born out of necessity, not desire. A woman who always has to be strong is often carrying the weight of emotional labor no one else sees. The overthinking, the caretaking, the silent protection of people she loves, the pressure to make everyone okay even when she's drowning. And inside that strength is a hidden weakness, the ache to be held, to fall apart, to let someone else take the lead for once, without feeling guilty or ashamed. But most men fall for the illusion of her strength. They assume she doesn't need affection, doesn't crave softness, doesn't want comfort. They love her armor, but never ask about the bruises underneath. But if you lean in, if you slow down, you'll feel it. The moment she's quiet just a little too long, the way she exhales when you touch her shoulder, the tears she fights in silence because she doesn't want to be a burden. And in those moments your job is not to fix her, it's to catch her with presence, with calm, with touch. With the words that say, you don't always have to be strong here, you can rest, I've got you, because the truth is, even the strongest woman wants to be held like she's fragile. Not because she's weak, but because she's tired of pretending to be unbreakable. And when you become the man who sees beyond her performance, who honors the strength and the struggle, she will let you in. Not halfway, all the way. Now there's one more doorway we need to step through. And it's the most silent of them all. It's not physical, it's not verbal, it's energetic. It's her need for presence, not attention, not validation. Not performance, presence, the kind of presence that says, I'm here, fully, not scrolling, not thinking about work. Not halfway listening, but here, with my whole nervous system, with my breath, with my energy, with my soul. A woman can feel your absence even when you're right next to her. She knows when your mind is elsewhere. She knows when you're talking but not feeling, when you're nodding but not hearing, and in that gap she feels unimportant. She feels disconnected. She feels alone with someone beside her. Presence is the rarest gift you can give a woman. It's the thing that costs nothing and means everything. It's not about big conversations. It's about your eyes. Your hands, your ability to sit with her while she speaks and not jump in to defend or debate. Your ability to just be fully without checking out. Because to a woman, presence means priority. It means I choose you right now above everything else. It means you matter enough for me to put the world on pause. And when a woman feels that deeply, consistently, she will open like a rose in spring, not forced, not rushed. But because the conditions are right, that is her softness, that is her surrender, that is her love pouring into you without walls. And that, my friend, is when a woman stops being a mystery and starts being a mirror of your depth, your attention, your strength, and your willingness to love not just her body, but her being. There's more. Stay with me. Some of the most powerful truths are the quietest ones. They don't knock on your door. They sit in the corner and wait for you to notice. That's what it's like with a woman's emotional world. It's not always loud. It doesn't always scream for attention. Sometimes it waits. It waits to feel safe enough to unfold. There is a weakness in every woman that isn't about being fragile, but about being human, and this one is so often missed by the men who love her, the need to be understood without explanation. She wants to be known in the pauses between her words, in the sigh that follows her smile, in the tear she quickly wipes away before you can see it. She wants to be felt in her contradictions, not judged for them, not forced to make sense of everything she's feeling. Because sometimes she doesn't even know, and if your love only exists when her emotions are neat and tidy, it's not love. It's convenience. A woman doesn't need you to always understand her logic, but she needs you to respect her mystery. To lean into her even when her mood shifts, even when her stories ramble, even when she tells you something she's afraid you'll dismiss. Because the moment she feels like she has to explain herself just to be valid, she starts to hide. And when a woman begins hiding her truth, her softness, her confusion, it means you've stopped being her safe space. That is not a weakness of hers. That's a signal, and if you're attuned, if you're awake, if you're humble enough to listen between the lines, you can hear it. She's not asking for a solution. She's asking for permission to be real, and you give that permission with your energy, with your slowness, with your refusal to invalidate her experience just because it doesn't fit into the boxes you were taught to expect. You want to be a powerful man, be the one who can hold her without requiring her to shrink herself down to fit your comfort zone. Because when she feels deeply understood, even in the mess her loyalty deepens, her fire burns brighter. She doesn't just love you, she trusts you with her truth, and there's something else, something even quieter. There's a part of every woman, whether she speaks it or not, that longs to feel chosen again, not just at the beginning, not just when it's new, but over and over. So many men do all the chasing at the start, the compliments, the attention, the passion, and then they retreat, they go quiet, they get comfortable, and slowly, without meaning to, they stop choosing her. Not out of malice, just out of habit, and she feels it. Oh, she feels it. She may not say it right away, but she feels the slow fade of your presence. The way your eyes don't linger like they used to, the way your hands don't explore like they used to, the way your conversations feel more like updates than connection, and then she starts wondering, what did I do wrong? Am I still enough? Am I still the one he wants, or just the one he has? This is one of the most tender weaknesses of a woman's heart. The ache to feel chosen, pursued, seen not just for who she was when you met her, but for who she is becoming. And here's the truth most men don't realize. A woman is constantly evolving. Her body, her desires, her rhythms, her values, they shift. And if you stop paying attention, you'll lose her while still holding her hand. Choosing her means witnessing her becoming. It means asking her who she is now, not just assuming you know because you once knew. It means making her feel like a priority, not a placeholder. It means bringing intentionality back into the smallest of things, the way you say her name, the way you greet her when she walks into the room, the way you put down your phone when she speaks, not because you have to, but because you want to. And when a woman feels chosen again, not out of obligation, but out of genuine desire, she comes alive. Her eyes soften, her sensuality returns, her guard falls, because now she's not just surviving the relationship, she's thriving in it. She becomes the most radiant version of herself, not because of who you are, but because of how you see her. And that is the power of masculine attention, focused, devoted, repeated. So many men think love is about intensity. The grand gesture, the perfect date, But the truth, love is about consistency, the kind that makes a woman feel like she never has to ask to be seen. She just is, always, and when you become the man who chooses her again, not because you forgot, but because you remembered, she will pour into you with a depth no other woman can match. Because women don't bloom from pressure, they bloom from presence, from knowing they're not being tolerated, but treasured. We're not done. Let's go deeper. There's a moment when a woman is quiet, not because she has nothing to say, but because she's wondering if her words even matter. And in that silence, you will either lose her or awaken her. What makes the difference isn't your charm. It's your capacity, because in the end that's what every woman is scanning for, not perfection, not bravado. Not the image of a man, but the capacity of a man to hold space, to stay steady, to understand what's unspoken, to lead with tenderness instead of ego. Every so-called weakness I've shared with you isn't actually weakness. It's a gateway, a door, an invitation to something richer, deeper, and more human than most relationships ever touch. These are not tricks. They're not tools. They're truths, emotional truths that, when honored, change everything. Because here's the rawest reality of love. A woman remembers not what you said, not even what you did, but how she felt around you. Was she safe? Was she seen? Was she allowed to be real? If your presence brought her closer to herself, you will never be forgotten. But if she had to trade her truth for your comfort, if she had to dilute her essence to be accepted, she may stay. She may smile, but she will quietly begin the process of leaving you emotionally, even if her body remains. So what makes a man unforgettable? It's not how much he makes her laugh. It's how deeply he makes her exhale. It's not how well he performs. It's how deeply he listens, especially when it's uncomfortable, especially when her emotions feel foreign, especially when she's not making it easy to stay. It's how you stay when everything in you wants to run. Because that is where love begins, not in the highs, but in the hard places. A woman's emotional terrain is vast. It is oceanic. It is lunar. It is layered with tides and seasons and winds that shift without warning. And when a man learns to sail not with fear, but with presence, he becomes a lighthouse in her storm. And you, my dear listener, you have that capacity. Maybe it wasn't taught to you. Maybe it was even discouraged. But it's in you, the ability to hold without fixing, to see without judgment, to love without fear. And what you'll discover when you love a woman with this kind of emotional intelligence, this depth, this sacred masculine grounding, is that you will change too. You'll soften in all the right places. You'll grow out of the need to dominate and into the ability to lead. You'll stop trying to win her and start witnessing her, and in doing so, you'll feel something you've always wanted but never knew how to name: home. Because real love, the kind that lasts, the kind that heals, the kind that turns a man into a leader and a woman into a queen, it doesn't ask you to change each other. It asks you to reveal each other. And when a man chooses to understand a woman, not to control her, not to seduce her, not to impress her, but to meet her, he becomes the kind of man this world is starving for. The kind of man who isn't just admired, but trusted, so the next time you see a woman pulling away, shutting down, or falling silent, don't ask what's wrong with her. Ask where did she stop feeling safe, and then offer your presence, not as an apology, but as a promise. You don't have to understand her perfectly, but you do have to care enough to try, because the truth is a woman's heart isn't a puzzle to solve. It's a place to come home to, and the man who knows how to treat it that way, he never has to worry about losing her, because she'll never forget the man who made her feel seen in all the places she once thought were too much to love. So if you've listened this far, you already know you're not here to be average, you're here to awaken. Now, go show her the kind of man the world forgot existed. the kind who understands that behind every strong woman is a deeper softness just waiting to be safe again.